Hello, welcome back to my experiment. I'm trying something new. Okay, I had Claude produce some slides for me, a lecture. We've worked on this iteratively. Um, so I'm going to jump in. This is my lecture series, a new experiment, which I will explain in the actual lecture itself. What I'm doing is essentially trying to make a living as myself, and I am documenting that process. There's other ways you could articulate that, like a lived inquiry into emergence, which is also accurate. But essentially, I'm just like, I got to figure out a way to like acquire resources while being myself because my body like won't let me do anything else. So I'm actually, this is the start of week 3, and I wanted to offer a little lecture on what isn't working and what I'm trying instead, which is pretty much the process that I have been undergoing for the past year and a half. Is like my body won't let me do something. I figure out the aspects of it that I'm not vibing with, and I try something else. So, as a recap, what I'm actually trying to do in this project right now, I'm committed to 3 months of documenting on video this journey of like, how do I acquire resources after burnout? That's video is the thing I'm committing to. However, I do find myself I'm very like multi-format, like multimedia. And so I'm also going to be writing and painting and making music and doing my other creative pursuits as well, and probably putting some of those out there. But video is just to keep it like manageable, video is the primary thing I'm committing to. I have done 2 videos so far, 2 planned ones and like 1 non-planned one. And it took me 2 to realize kind of a lot of what wasn't feeling right. And I can only learn it by doing, which mortifies me. But I have, over the past few days, figured out a lot of what I want to try next. This may not be something that lasts either, but to kind of give a little bit of an observation on what wasn't working, the format was essentially eating the content, which that was a nice little phrase Claude came up with. So the first week, I felt kind of okay with what I put out, but a lot of shame and anxiety came up afterwards that was really like overtaking my second week. And essentially, a lot of it was just that I have come to a place of feeling connection with myself over the past year. And I've kind of really struggled to hold on to that as I'm creating and putting things out there with the intention of somehow returning to exchange. And yeah, that might be a rabbit hole. Let me just read my slide deck, because this is why I have the slides. We're going to talk about that more in a second, but I can just so easily go down rabbit holes. Okay. So the video I made wasn't bad, but like as soon as I posted it, something just felt really off to me. And so I made a second video where I kind of verbally processed what was feeling off, to kind of, look at and feel through this anxiety and shame, which I don't view as things like I actually, to some extent, there can be something freeing for me. I'm creating from that place and like letting myself express from that place, because I feel like we need to hide that a lot. But while that's also more authentic, it's not really as accessible. And so, like, what I came to realize, and this is another nice little Claude package statement that feels a little funny for me to say. I don't think that the thing that was off is that I haven't found the right container yet. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that there's so much that I want to get out and communicate, but I'm sort of struggling to especially do it all in singular containers is one of the things I've realized. And this is why, as a broader whole, I feel like my work is supported by kind of 3 things right now, which is the video work, painting, and writing. And there are other, like music is a big part. Music might become a bigger part, but kind of like these things are holding up my creative process in different ways. And I think I'm realizing now that within each practice itself, there's kind of different things I'm trying to do that I am struggling to do at once. And I think the tension is a lot between like abstraction and pure expression, and just like pure expression and like making something like legible and figurative that people like can understand. Because I do want to intellectually transmit my ideas, but when I mix that in with the kinesthetic, like raw expression, it feels like first of all, I often use it as more like an avoidance technique from actually feeling. And so I'm realizing like doing the intellectual transmission and the kinesthetic, like a lot of what I'm trying to put out in the world is about expressing, I need to slow down a little bit, about expressing from kind of like a felt perceptual experience of the world, like even like largely pre-verbal, like a lot of what, or using words in a more kind of emotive, intuitive way, like poetry sort of thing. And so a lot of what I want to get across in the documentary is more like this kinesthetic ideas, like visuals and sounds, and like be really like experimental and exploratory and kind of show the texture of a life. But doing that as well as getting my ideas across is like a technical, like kind of challenge that I'm not really at the level of skill that I'm able to do. So instead I was trying to do both in a single video that just felt really too simplistic. Like I put music that I just like free music that I found on there, and that just the emotional tone like felt a little off to me. It didn't feel like it was really capturing the emotions that I was trying to get across. It felt kind of like I was trying to I felt like I was also trying to create too much of a narrative structure that was like making this hard week sort of like, yeah, like I was trying to whip meaning out of it, which like I have a whole other treatise I could go down about what I think about our impulse to meaning making and how necessary and crucial it actually is versus like I think we've over identified with meaning making is the short version. And so there was both like there's multiple aspects of what like happened afterwards, which is part of it is just it's hard to be seen trying out loud and to be vulnerable and to like there's a lot of like self-surveillance I'm just having to cut down because I really can get in obsessive spirals of how people perceive me. But it was also like a fact that the format didn't fit. And this last line is another one that like comes from Claude, which gets me to the experiment I'm trying this week. And I'm sort of hoping this might be a format that lasts me a little bit longer than a single week, but we will see. And that is that I'm splitting what I'm doing, documenting to 2 streams. I even have an idea for a third, but there's kind of core 2 things that I'm trying to get across to share what I'm doing. And one is this one, which is like this lecture series. And this is making my ideas more transmissible. And this is why I've involved Claude is because if I didn't have this slide deck that was like I can just be so non-linear right now. There's so much happening. And so this has actually been like, to me, this feels like assistive technology, whatever. It's been this like iteration. So how I made this today, for instance, was basically over the weekend. Like for me, it all starts in being able to actually like slow down and feel my body and kind of feel what I'm actually feeling without resistance. Like literally just like the sensations. And then it normally leads to like clarity of what I need to try next. And so I got to the point, I did that over this weekend. And then I have like a lot of like ways I can articulate that. So I dumped I think like I did a 30-minute voice note with like all that I was thinking about. I put in what I made last week to kind of give some context. And then I had it developed like a slide deck for me. I actually talked through that first slide deck in a video that I recorded before. But a lot of what like Claude's phrasing had been in the deck was just kind of really yucky, and like something about the language felt very unnatural to me. And what some of those sentences I've been referencing are vestiges for that, where in that video I was reading those sentences out loud. But what I did after that was I put that transcript back into Claude, had it remake a slide that is now mostly more my articulation of this, with again still some vestigial remnants where I was sort of mockingly saying what Claude said. And that's what I'm filming now. And this feels a lot better than the first film. So this might be the format. But still, this has only taken me, this really hasn't taken me that long, a couple of hours. So that is the one side. And then the second side that I'm going to try this week is sort of like a much more experimental, like texture reel where there's nothing in it besides like, I'm going to try to capture moments and sounds that feel alive this week and then maybe make a song to it and just like make some sort of like play around with it as a purely like artistic expression, not as any message I'm trying to get across. So I'm segmenting these two things that I'm trying to explore to see if it's a little more viable. And I'm having one that will be like, there will be no AI in that second one. But this first one, like a lot of the tension is this gonna, we'll get to, okay, the tension comes later in the lecture series. So let's continue to the next slide, please. Okay. A lot of what this all comes down to is how I have approached this whole process is I have tried to, over the past year, really come to understand myself clearly and see myself. And there are still layers of that, and accept and love myself as I am rather than fighting against that. Because there's a lot of things about how I am that, I mean, I could give you all these like pathologies, all these diagnoses. I don't view them that way because I think that I just am, I'm neurodivergent. My body is divergent. And I mean, I think what is even the norm is a better question. But for me, there's a lot about how like my body really like, I think I produce my best work and feel better when my body really rules or like instigates the process is maybe a better word. I don't know. And the like analysis and intellect sort of serves that. Like intuition and feeling are much more dominant for me. And a lot of this relates to just how I am wired. There's like a really strong, like, I think I'm a very bottom up rather than top down processor, and that there's not like a lot of kind of, that's something that, I mean, I could describe more, but like it has to do with like, I think I have like, whatever. I think I have some sort of kinesthetic synesthesia. I have no mind's eye. Like when I do see things, they're like patterns and colors. Like, I think there's kind of this, like a lot of what like, this is just an example. This I think happens in multiple domains in my brain, but most people, like the mind's eye is almost more kind of like predicting and generating things. Whereas mine, I'm like more seeing, I think literally the like visual cortex, just what it's doing on its own. But this is more like, this is not some like, oh, I know this to be sure about my brain, but I really have been trying to understand the neuroscience behind how I work with my sort of, I have obsessive compulsive tendencies, which I don't view that as entirely a pathology at all. Like I view that as something that can be very destructive and difficult to deal with, but also there's ways that I can work with it that feel really, I think, yeah, it's like more of an orientation towards the world, and there's ways that I can work with it. And a lot of what I'm trying to do is across all of like the way my mind and body works. How can I work with it rather than against it? It's not to say that like there's no way that I ever have to adapt to anything else, but like this is why I'm using like assistive technology to communicate my ideas more clearly, because I have come to realize over the course of the past year how cognitively effortful it has been my entire life to translate my nonlinear thought into linear format. It's not that I can't do it, but it's extremely resource intensive to me. And so I have no qualms about using AI to enable me to communicate my ideas more clearly, honestly. And some people might disagree with that, and that's like one thing I have to accept. I think there's a difference about like pure artistic expression and like generative ideas and expressing those, and like also making myself legible. A lot of what else I kind of think is more of this logic layer is not meant to be like pure fact. It's like just kind of how I'm looking at my experience. But a lot of what I think, how I'm oriented creatively, is very inspired by people like Jenny, or not inspired by, it's just that when I see them, I resonate with their approach, but I also really like their work. So I guess I am inspired by like Jenny Salaville, Fred again, Rick Rubin. There's something about kind of all of them that I think relates to, and I think this is some of Claude's old language as well, receiving before imposing. There's like this lack of like aim or outcome that they're aiming for. They're bringing some amount of like chance or engagement with the world into the process and responding to it. It's almost more of like a responsive creativity, I think. And that's a lot of what I'm trying to do is like sort of lean into the not knowing. And I think, again, my mind really, like, a lot of what this is kind of putting the intuitive and emotional as a higher, as kind of leading. And again, I've really used analysis to kind of understand, like, can I actually trust these things? And like, is this, I put a lot of critical thought to the process I'm doing as well. But I can see that, like, I work better when I really, my mind doesn't come in and try to plan my way to a specific outcome. It has kept, like, I think that's what it's done the past, like, since I made the intention a couple months ago to start to exchange for resources again. My mind's really been like, oh, it's my turn to solve this. And I'm having to kind of go back and like reorient a lot to how I do this. Okay. The tension and this, yeah, so there's like a tension in what I'm trying to do, which is that there's a lot of, and this is like what I think I'm really interested in as an artist is how do I kind of bring my work back? How do I like sacralize the transition? This is concept from like Lewis Hyde between my work and the like more kind of market economy we live in. And a lot of this has to do with like, I could just go be creatively out there and do weird things, but that's kind of when I do that, I'm not reaching people. And I think there's this tension of, I don't need to reach everybody. I want to reach the people who actually want to be reached by my work, but I do want to figure out how to start getting it out there because like people need to have an entry point. And so there's this tension between like legibility and like the core authentic expression. And again, I think this bifurcation is going to help me. I don't know, because like my body really refuses to perform. So I have to find formats that enable me to get things across without having to perform and without like having to stretch myself so far outside of like the way my brain works. And I think this is an interesting problem. Like, how do I make my work? Yeah, it's an interesting problem. One thing I'll say as well is just like, I don't know if this entirely relates to this tension, but everything that I'm trying like seems to work for a little while, and then I have to create a new process or structure or practice. So I don't know, like I'm liking this one morning into trying it. We'll see how the texture side of this split documentary goes. So I'm hoping this might last me for like a little bit, but I don't know. I don't know if it will. Oh yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of, I think the point about tension is there's a lot of tensions in this. Another tension is that like, I think I still, and this comes out sometimes, and that's like a little mortifying for me, but like, I don't know, I'm human. Like I'm trying to kind of operate from this more animist relational space, but there's still a lot of this like extractive, like external authority, mindset that like exists within me that I think, I really got to survive through the world by complying. Like I could, just the way that I worked was so different. I would like be told the rules for compliance. I would follow them. I would do well at following them and I would get rewarded. And now I'm having to like orient really differently. And that's hard. And like, there's also just the embarrassment of being seen trying. And, yeah, sometimes I'm just like, want someone to fix this, honestly, but it's like, that's not how it works, but that does come out still. Okay. What it's actually like. I mean, this is kind of what I said. Like I do keep snapping back into wanting to a savior, but I know I'm responsible for my own journey. Some air got in this week. That's a Claude line. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, another thing that like, I think I have to start like a lot of what I think is true is having to start letting go of the desire for a specific impact. Like, I don't know how my work is going to be impactful. I have to do it because it feels good to me. I want it to reach people and I want it to like be of some use or benefit, but I don't really get to choose if and how that's the case. And having that too much as an aim, I think actually makes the work less alive. But it is, again, because of this, like such a trained sense that if I just comply, I'm going to get rewarded. Like, I don't know. It sort of feels like this, like some like addict aspect of me, like being addicted to like reassurance and being told I'm good, is like getting starved right now. And that's a little messy. Open question. This is another one where I mockingly said this in my, um, it can't hear tone. That's the really annoying thing about Claude, is it cannot hear tone. But I mockingly said this in my, well, of course it can't in a transcript. If the container I build keeps not lasting, is that something to fix or something to follow? That's no, I do know. That's the whole point, is like I'm just supposed to keep following it feels alive. I'm also trying to figure out how to ask for things. That's hard for me. That came up a lot this past week, and there's so much more I could say on that, but just trying to figure out how to ask in a way that's not, I don't know. There's so many layers about why I think asking's hard, but I feel like that's going to go down a rabbit hole, and this is 20 minutes and that feels good. But yeah, I want to, like, if this interests other people, like, I don't think it's about exchange. So it can't be a journey just on my own. It's about me. Like, for me, it's about me figuring out how to make a living as myself, but that inevitably involves other people. And I think there's broader questions about creativity, like the usefulness of creativity in this time, about this kind of orientation to creativity as uncertainty and staying open, that maybe have more broad applicability. And I don't just, I want to involve other people, and I need to involve other people. I have creative practices I want to learn. I also have things I want to share with other people and have them receive them, like various creative ideas and performances, or like immersive. I think there's a lot of ideas for immersive kind of creative improv experiences that other people would be a chance that people create together. I have an idea of kind of how, like, do some events. I have various creative practices I want to learn. I just want to talk to other people about, like, labor and work and labor, and what, like, how to make, like, how people are finding ways to make livings now that feel good to them, or feel like there's some amount of integrity and ability to, like, not split off parts of themselves. That's kind of the core of what I'm doing. I'm talking fast. I do want to talk slower next time. I think I want to make this I don't know. I mean, if you watch this whole thing, tell me, like, was this too many ideas? I mean, this is literally, like, probably like a fraction of, like, the number of ideas I gave it to consider, because my mind is an exhausting place to live. Anyway, this is the best ask for help, but that's okay. This is just an experiment. So at the end of the day, it's really not, like, that's the thing, is it can't be about trying to get the audience. It has to just be about what feels good to me. So I don't know if this is interesting to you or not, but, well, I mean, it's about both. That's the annoying thing. But I feel like I always have to go back to, like, what feels good to me. Like, if in doubt, I have to do what feels good to me. But I'm also trying to think about, how do I reach people who it might be useful for, interesting, or I don't know. Anyway, if you watch the whole thing, thank you. I love you. And feel free to let me know any responses.